Spies, lies, and the president who uses those words a lot in tweets about the Russia investigation. Most recently in his unsupported claims that the FBI infiltrated his campaign with a spy. In one instance this week, he tweeted this: "The corrupt mainstream media is working overtime not to mention the infiltration of people, spies, informants into my campaign. Surveillance much?" Congressman Trey Gowdy, who saw intelligence last week, says that's just not the case.
Donald Trump was never the target of the investigation. He's not the current target of the investigation. Now, keep in mind, that can all change depending on what a witness says. But as of now, I think Chris Wray and Rod Rosenstein are stunned whenever people think Trump is the target of their investigation. I'll leave it up to them how to brief the president or how to brief his lawyers.
Was that point of view that you're talking about right now, was that strengthened when you went into this briefing last week?
Yes, I am even more convinced that the FBI did exactly what my fellow citizens would want them to do when they got the information they got, and that it has nothing to do with Donald Trump.
Joining me again, Ken Blackwell and Maria Cardona. All right, Ken, Congressman Gowdy was a hero to Republicans after leading the House investigation on Benghazi, but some see his defense of the FBI as turning against the president and have lashed out at him. Rudy Giuliani dismissing Gowdy's defense of the FBI as, quote, drinking the Kool-Aid. Do you agree with that assessment?
Look, this is one of those classic cases where some of my friends say this, some of my friends say that, and I love all of my friends. Look, Trey has narrowed this down to a question of spygate, where spies dropped into the campaign to spy on the campaign, to get some dirt, to stir up some dirt on the then candidate Trump and others. And he is basically saying, from what he was told, no to that. Rudy Giuliani, on the other hand, understands that the threat of impeachment is a political process. It is not a legal process or criminal justice process. It's a political process. And so he's engaged in basically attempting to make sure that a point of view is shared with the base, that all things were not culture with how this was handled by the then Justice Department higher-ups. It's pure and simple. So I think one is playing a political game. The other is, in fact, talking about a narrow legal issue, and they're both right.
Maria, you agree with that?
I didn't really understand what that meant, Ken. Sorry, because it's actually very simple. Trey Gowdy is now being attacked by Trump's allies because he committed the ultimate sin. He told the truth. We already know that this president doesn't have any relationship with the truth, which is why the only thing he spouts on Twitter are these fantastical lies and myths, because he himself is feeling caged in by the investigation by Bob Mueller. And so what he's trying to do is to discredit every chance he gets. Meanwhile, we have Trey Gowdy, who has been a supporter of the president, but who has also done something that very few people have, which is he has actually seen the classified information. And it's coming from his mouth, a Republican who has supported the president, essentially saying that what the president is saying is wrong. And so that is why he is getting the attacks from the president's allies. I think that what he did was right on. It is something that we should see more from Republicans, who should stand up and be for the truth. And so good for him.
And it is notable that Devin Nunes, the other Republican who was there in that briefing, has remained silent. He was someone, he is seen as an ally of the president, and he was really raising questions about this notion of a spy in the campaign. Ken, how long can the White House push this position with no evidence to back it up?
As long as there is hard evidence and I think sunshine.
Hard evidence. What hard evidence are you referring to?
Excuse me. As long as there's hard evidence that McCabe, that Comey, that they are not virtuous of the truth, that they have in fact engaged in questionable acts. There have been folks who have been released because they were engaged in political activity that was untoward in terms of the mission of the FBI. So there's a lot of hard evidence that everything was not culture and kosher with the FBI and the Justice Department under Obama. So there's just real clear evidence that this spin, and it's an accurate spin, that Rudy is playing out in the political arena, it's to the defense of the president politically, and I encourage him to continue to do it. Trey and those who, from the Senator McConnell and others who were in that room, were looking at evidence on the narrow issue of whether or not there were spies dropped into the campaign, and they
but that's
all
what
have
the
said that
president
they
is
agree
saying.
with the
The
actions.
president is saying that.
Yeah.
Go
So
ahead.
do you think Trey is lying?
Again,
do you think Trey Gowdy is lying?
Again, what the president's team is doing is in fact raising doubt around the political process that has been an overlay of this investigation. And you can't deny that this, in fact, impeachment
That is
talk
exactly
is a
what the
pure
president
political
is
front.
doing.
Yeah.
He's
So at the end of the day, the president is right. The president is right. Rudy is right.
He's trying to discredit the investigation, and I'm sorry, Ken, but both things can't be true. The president can't be right.
Was McCabe
saying,
guilty of bad behavior?
Let's talk about it. No,
Comey.
hang on, Ken. Hang on, Ken.
And I'll give you final
We're
word.
not talking about We're not talking about
Ken, hold
McCabe.
on.
We're not talking about
Yes,
McCabe. We're not talking about Comey. This is actually very simple. Either the president is right when he says that there was a spy that was dropped into his campaign to spy on him and the campaign, or Trey Gowdy is right when he says he has seen the intelligence and there is no truth and no evidence to what the president is saying. Both things cannot be true. I trust Trey Gowdy. I trust the people who have seen this intelligence. And frankly, the fact that you have Devin Nunes completely silent, that you have Marco Rubio and Graham also saying that there has been no evidence to support what President Trump is trying to put out there, I think that speaks volumes.
But do you see his point that, look, some of the other leaders of the FBI, Comey and McCabe, have had questionable behavior in his view, and Republicans' view, that it's
they're
fair
gone
to raise questions?
And they're gone. Yes.
They were there during the investigation.
McCabe was fired. And again, I think what Trump is trying to do, and his allies like Ken, is to conflate the two. And it's weird for me, a Democrat, a progressive, and a liberal, to be defending the FBI, but that's kind of where we have gone. Because more than that, I see what we're doing is defending the truth, while Trump has no idea what the truth means.
And you do have Rudy Giuliani just recently that all of this is part of a PR strategy to sway public opinion.
Right.